I am feeling lucky and excited. Lucky because I have a whole buttload of this stuff, golden kiwi fruit, and excited to see if I can turn it into a brandy. How's it going, chasers? I hope you're having a kick-ass week. I'm Jesse, this is Still It, and I am super excited because I get to turn these things, golden kiwi fruit, into a brandy, something I've never done before, and I'm really intrigued to see how this turns out. If you haven't eaten these things before, they're really, really delicious. They have a interesting tangy but kind of tropical and fresh flavor. I have no idea if any of this is going to carry through fermentation. I guess we're just going to have to find out. And I've been showing you off one box of kiwi fruit here, but there's a little more than that. Hold on. Two boxes of kiwi fruit. Oh. 3 boxes of kiwi fruit. Oh, and there's a whole rubbish bin of the stuff down there as well, which I'm not going to be lifting. I don't know for sure, but my best guess is 80 to 100 kilograms of kiwi fruit. That's about this in pounds. Huge thank you to the dude who wanted to remain anonymous, but thank you for hooking me up, man. It's very much appreciated. Let's get stuck right into processing this stuff. I am lucky because there's a whole lot of this, and I have this, I don't know what to call it, a mangulator, I guess. I'm going to throw a little in here and just test whether or not this will actually get through the kiwis. That's going to work absolutely wonderfully, so I'm going to crack on with that. Obviously, I've got a whole lot of fruit to process here, but a few things to discuss. First of all, I've let the fruit sit and ripen for a while because I don't want to add sugar to this. I want it to just be a straight up fruit brandy. I don't do that very often, and this is a great opportunity to do so. And because of that, some of the kiwi fruit is starting to look a little bit sketchy. It looks wrinkly, it looks like it's old and nasty, but cutting these open shows that they're actually fine on the inside. They smell great, they taste great still. Obviously, every now and again, I'll find one that's actually bad. That's going in the rubbish bin. But everything else is going straight in. Essentially, I was just hoping to get a little bit more sugar, fermentable sugar, out of this. The ones that I'm feeling really borderline about, I'm going to set those aside and I'll slice them open to see if they're actually okay on the inside, because I'm struggling a little bit to see, you know, to guess from the outside whether they are or not. The other thing is I considered peeling all of these to get the skin off. And obviously I'm not doing that for 2 reasons. One is I'm lazy, and the idea of peeling 100 kilos of kiwi fruit, not going to happen. I thought that perhaps the skins would kind of make it go a little bit bitter, but I doubt very much that that is going to make it through fermentation. These may be famous last words, and I may be ruining this batch right now, but my educated guess is that it's going to be fine. Yeah, that one's no good. Even with the mangulator, this is going to take some time, so I guess I'll get back to you when I've done some work. With all the kiwi fruit pulverized, it's taken up roughly 100 liters in my large fermenter. I'm going to add about 8 liters of water to this just to loosen it up slightly and let everything mix in a little bit better, because it's, you know, almost a solid at this stage. So in goes 3 tablespoons of yeast nutrient. That goes into the bucket. Give it a really good stir to oxygenate a little. And today I'm going to be using CY17 from Mangrove Jacks. Essentially, I was just looking for a wine yeast that's going to throw more kind of tropical, interesting, fruity characteristics into the wash rather than just being totally neutral, to try and sort of play on that already delicious tropical flavor that comes from the kiwi fruit. Normally I don't ever mix the yeast in, I just sort of pitch it on top and let it do its thing. With this one, because it is so thick, I did decide to give it a stir afterwards as well. One of the questions I get all the time having this job is, am I afraid that I'm just going to run out of things to do, run out of ideas, run out of things to distill?
And the short answer is no, not at all. The world is absolutely full of possibilities for distillers. People that are chasing the craft of home distillation have a giant range of ingredients that they can choose from, hunt down, desire, and ultimately distill. And while there is technically a limited amount of specific ingredients for us to play with, the combinations of different ingredients really does approach infinity. In fact, it's one of my favorite parts of this hobby. My favorite part of chasing the craft is knowing that there's always something different you can play with. So anytime I'm feeling stuck, anytime I feel like I don't know what to do in this craft, I tend to look to ingredients to give me inspiration. And that is what our new challenge coin celebrates. It's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek nod or an ode to the muse that is the distilling god of all things that grow. You'll find all sorts of Easter eggs on the new coin that relate specifically to those amazing ingredients that we get to utilize. It's available now at chasethecraft.com, and if you signed up for Patreon or the newsletter, you can get a free pin when you order the coin. So if you've been thinking about signing up to either of those, now's probably the time. This one formed a really heavy fruit head on top, and it took about 8 days for primary fermentation to finish out. The plan was to leave it for 2 or 3 days to get a little bit of lacto action going on, but we got busy, school holidays, so on and so forth, and it actually sat for another 10 days, and lacto got quite intense. It actually smelled amazing at this point in time. I was a little bit worried that it was going to get a little too funky based on that lacto, but I jumped straight into the stripping runs anyway. It took 2.5 stripping runs to get the fermenter emptied out. The first one was easy, I could just skim the liquid off the top. For the second and third stripping runs, I sieved the kiwi fruit through the claw hammer mash tun using the basket and put the strainings back into the still. All the low wines went into the T500. I used the alembic dome and did the spirit run in pot still mode. I took a small amount of 4 shots off at the beginning and waited around for heads to clear up. These heads actually came across quite similar to a single malt, which was strange to me. I was expecting a lot of the fruit flavor to be right up front, but the kiwi fruit flavor was pretty much standard all the way through the run, which was really interesting to me. Down near the tails, it didn't get straight up funky, but it did start to get just a little bit strange and grungy. I ended up cutting this one off at 58% ABV, switching from hearts to tails, mostly because I want to keep this light and fruity. I don't want a lot of weight to it in terms of flavor. So here we have it, all that work, and I've ended up with a little over 2 litres of spirits at 45% ABV. First, before tasting this, I'm going to say a huge thank you to the Patreons. Thank you, Patreons. We thoroughly appreciate all of your support. Thank you so much, team. And like I said earlier, if you haven't seen it already, the code for the free pin with the coin is up on Patreon, so you can grab it there. All right, let's get stuck into this, shall we? Like I said, not a lot of spirit, considering this is a 100-litre wash. Not bad, actually, more than I potentially thought I was going to get. But I can totally see why people, myself included, are always tempted to put a little bit of sugar in with fruit, because it just doesn't go that far. And obviously for me, I got hooked up. This was kiwi fruit that was going begging. But you know, if you're buying the stuff, that's a lot of freaking money for 2 bottles, right? So, oh, sorry. 2.5 bottles, and this is a giant Costco-sized bottle. But anyway, there's definitely some kind of white wine-ish fruit going on in the background as well, which is nice. But it also has this really interesting, almost aloe vera-like characteristic to it, which I wasn't anticipating at all. I'm going to have to pause the video and have a little time to figure out how the hell to describe this to you. Hold on. All right, team. So I've taken a half hour just kind of sipping on this, thinking about it, trying to decide what it actually tastes like. And I'll be real, it's tricky. And I think part of the reason it's tricky is because it's a freaking fruit brandy. When you distill fruit, more often than not, it doesn't end up tasting like the actual fruit. Like, think of a brandy. You drink brandy, you don't think, oh, this is grapes straight away. Well, I don't. And apparently kiwi fruit is just the same. So I gave it to Erin, and the first thing she said is, wow, that's fruity. It doesn't smell like kiwi fruit though. And then she tried it and said it tastes like a dessert wine or ice wine, or even maybe kind of heading towards a noble wine. And I can get on board with that. I know what she's saying. There's a lot of big fruity characteristics in here, but it's all kind of, it's not kiwi fruit. There is a generic tropical aroma to it, not dissimilar to an English ale yeast's ester profile. There is something kind of greener, like plant materially-ish, that almost reminds me of tequila. Not quite. Erin didn't get that. She didn't pick up on it. And the flavor profile is pretty similar. Big fruity characteristics. I definitely understand what she's saying. The more I drink it, the more I think she's right about the dessert wine. It's like a white dessert wine. And it has that characteristic on the mouthfeel as well. It's like the lingering mouthfeel you get after eating a kiwi fruit. It's not creamy, it's not oily, it's not voluptuous. It's more, if I had to pick something, velvety, I guess. Like whipped fruit, like a fruit sorbet or a fruit mousse. And that is really awesome. So I love it, but it's very different than anything else I've ever distilled. And I think anything else I've ever tasted in terms of a distilled spirit. So if you guys have done kiwi fruit, please let me know. And I totally get if you haven't, because I'll be real with you. Even with, the budget for the channel, I'm not gonna go out and buy 100 kilos of kiwi fruit. That's ridiculous. So once again, thank you to my man that hooked me up. If you guys have tried something similar to this, please stick a comment in the comment section down below and let us know what you've done and how it turned out. And I'll catch you next time, guys. Keep on chasing the craft. See ya.